It started with a joke, a stupid, harmless joke meant for a friend, sent to the wrong number. Why did the alpha refuse to use the phone? She typed, grinning as she flopped onto her couch. Because he didn't want to pose for a call. She hit send, tossed the phone aside, and laughed at her own pun. The screen lit up almost instantly. Unknown number. That's not funny. She blinked, sitting up. The number wasn't saved in her contacts. No name, no emoji, just a string of digits that felt wrong. Okay, she muttered, typing again. You're right. It was terrible. Sorry, wrong number. The reply came before she could set the phone down. You shouldn't joke about Alpha's little one. The words made something cold crawl up her spine. It was the phrasing, little one. No one had called her that since childhood. No one alive. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Do I know you? Not yet. But you will. The message appeared, then vanished. Deleted before she could screenshot it. Her heart began to pound. Great, she muttered. Probably some creep playing games. But even as she said it, thunder rolled outside. Low and deliberate, as if the sky had responded. The lights flickered. Her apartment, already too small, suddenly felt like a box that someone was looking into from the dark. And then, 3 sharp knocks at the door. Rain slashed against the window as Lila Cross froze mid-step. Her phone buzzed in her hand, the notification light pulsing like a heartbeat. I'm here. Open the door, her breath caught. No way, it had been, what? 5 minutes since she sent that stupid text. Maybe less. She crept toward the door, bare feet silent on the wooden floor. Through the peephole, she saw only the hallway, empty except for the flickering light above apartment 3B. No one was there, and yet the air felt occupied, charged, like static before lightning. The knock came again, harder this time. The sound vibrated through the door, through her chest. Who's there? She called, voice shaking despite her effort to steady it. No answer. She reached for the lock, hesitated, and instead backed away. Nope, absolutely not. Her phone buzzed again. Don't be afraid, Lila. She froze. Her name. She had never told him her name. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Who are you? How do you know my name? The typing dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared again. Finally, a single message. You called me. The alpha always answers his mate. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Her heart hammered so violently, she could hear it echoing in her skull. Mate? What the hell was this? Some online prank? She forced a shaky laugh. Okay, enough. You're insane. But when she turned toward the window, she saw him. A man. No, a figure. Standing under the rain just beyond the glass. Tall, broad-shouldered, drenched in shadows. Even from a distance, she could feel it. An aura that pressed against the air itself. His eyes gleamed silver under the stormlight, catching the flash of lightning like metal. And though every instinct screamed to hide, Lila stepped closer to the glass because something about him wasn't entirely human. He tilted his head slightly, as if hearing her unspoken question through the glass in the rain. Then he smiled, slow and predatory. The next instant, the light bulb above her door burst with a pop. The apartment went dark. Okay, she whispered, backing away. This is not happening. I'm dreaming. It's a nightmare. But the scent hit her next. Rain, smoke, and something wild. Something that didn't belong in cities. Then the door handle turned. She ran. The kitchen. The drawer. Knife. Too small. Phone. Dead. Power. Gone. The third knock wasn't a knock this time. It was a command. The door creaked open on its own, slow and deliberate, like something had decided the lock was optional. And there he was. He filled the doorway, tall, soaked in rain, dark coat clinging to a body built of power and quiet violence, hair black as midnight, skin pale as moonlight, eyes glowing faint silver. Lila stumbled backward until her knees hit the couch. "You get out! I'll call the police." He stepped inside, dripping water on the floor. "They can't help you." His voice was low, almost a growl, but not threatening. More like a storm speaking to the shore. "Who are you?" she demanded. He looked at her, gaze unblinking. "The one you called." "I didn't call anyone." He tilted his head. "You texted a number that belongs to me. That isn't a coincidence," she swallowed. It was a joke." "Fate doesn't joke," he said softly. Lightning flashed again, painting his features in white. He wasn't human. Not entirely. His pupils shimmered like liquid silver, and for an instant, she swore she saw something shift beneath his skin, like the outline of a beast waiting for permission. He took a step closer. "You shouldn't have called Lila Cross. Now the bond is open." "The what?" "The bond between mates." "Okay, you're insane," she whispered. Backing up against the wall. "You need to leave." He stopped only a few feet away now. His scent filled the air, earth and rain and something old. "You feel it too, don't you?" "No," but her voice betrayed her, because somewhere beneath her fear, something deep inside did feel it. The pull, the heat under her skin, the strange awareness that she wasn't alone inside her own heartbeat anymore. He smiled faintly. "Your pulse just matched mine." Her throat tightened. "Get out." "I can't." He took another step. The air thickened. "Not until I know why fate brought you to me." Her hand brushed the countertop, found the knife. She raised it trembling. "I said leave." He didn't even flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, so close she could feel his breath. "You can't hurt me," he murmured. "But you could try. I might even let you." His eyes darkened, silver bleeding into black. Her pulse spiked. Then, from somewhere deep in the city, a howl rose, a sound that didn't belong in concrete and steel. His head turned sharply toward the window, expression tightening. "They've found you," he said. "Already? What are you talking about?" He looked at her again, every trace of softness gone. "There's no time. Pack your things." "What?" "You've been marked. Every rogue in this city will scent it before morning." She shook her head. "Marked? I don't..." He closed the distance, his hand brushing her wrist. Not roughly, but firmly. The instant he touched her, a spark flared under her skin, racing up her arm like fire. She gasped. He watched her reaction closely, his eyes unreadable. "Yes," he said softly. "It's real. Let me go." "I will. But first, listen carefully." His voice dropped, urgent. "You opened a bond with me when you sent that message. You didn't just text a stranger, Lila. You called your mate. And now, every enemy who hunts my kind will hunt you to find me." Lightning thundered outside, shaking the glass. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she shouted. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled again, almost sadly. "You will. Why?" "Because you're already mine." And before she could scream, the lights went out completely, and the world turned silver. The last thing Lila saw before darkness swallowed her was his eyes, glowing brighter than the storm. Then, the sound of her window shattering. Then nothing. She woke to the quiet sound of rain on glass and a heartbeat. That wasn't hers. Not in the way you hear someone pacing a hall, not in the way you hear your own blood when fear turns your ears into seashells. This was a rhythm braided into her own, as if her pulse had discovered an echo and decided to keep time with it. Lila rolled onto her side and felt silk instead of the thrift store sheets she'd fallen asleep on. The air smelled like cedar, cold iron, and a shadow of smoke, as if a fireplace had been used earlier and cleaned with an obsessive hand. She opened her eyes to a ceiling she'd never seen. It was high, slate dark, with thin gold lines veining it like a map of some other city. The room around her was all sharp lines and soft textures. Charcoal walls. A long bank of windows banded with rain. A rug the color of storm clouds. Someone had left a glass of water on the table. Someone had wrapped her arm in gauze where the shattered window had kissed her skin. Memory surged. The text, the reply, the knock, the man in the doorway, the way his eyes had gone silver when the lights blew, the world tilting inside a roar of wind, the sensation of being pulled through the dark as if the night itself had decided to carry her. She sat up too fast. The room slid for a second, then steadied, slowly. A voice said, low and close. He stepped out of the shadow between two windows, like the room had made him. The same height, the same dangerous architecture of a body built to fight and win. Black shirt open at the throat, dark hair pushed back with the casual ruthlessness of a man who didn't ask mirrors for permission. His eyes were less silver now, but not human. Not completely. You moved me, she said, and hated how small her voice sounded in the large, disciplined space. I kept you alive, he corrected mildly. The rogues were closing in on your building. Your joke worked better than you think. It wasn't She stopped, changed battlegrounds. Who are you? He studied her for a beat that felt measured with a metronome. Ronan Thorne, he said at last. King to the city packs, alpha to those who still believe in that word when the lights are on. King, she repeated, tasting the ridiculousness. Then, quieter. You broke my window. You're welcome, he said. There was no smile in it, but there was not a smile either. She swung her legs off the side of the bed. Bare feet. Someone had taken off her shoes. The dress she'd worn was gone. In its place, a black t-shirt fell to mid-thigh, soft and unfamiliar. Where's my stuff? In the wardrobe, he said. Your phone is on the table. I wiped any trackers. My phone doesn't have... She reached for it anyway, because arguing was easier than acknowledging the ancient thing humming behind her ribs. The screen woke to a lock page. No signal, battery full. One message in the thread she'd tried to delete last night. An image where the text bubble should be, not letters. A symbol. Circular interlocked lines like a crest. What is that? She whispered. He came close enough for his presence to push the air toward her. He didn't touch the phone. A ward stamp. When you texted, you didn't hit a number. You hit a name. That's not how phones work. Names are older than phones, he said. Mine is bound to a set of fail-safes. If a call is sent with certain words across certain towers, at a certain hour. I told a bad wolf pun at 11:07 p.m., she snapped. That's your certain words. A corner of his mouth moved, admitting a private joke and then declining to share it. You said alpha. You meant it as a joke. Your phone didn't. My phone feels the truth in your skin faster than your mind does when the moon is paying attention, he said, as if reciting something he didn't quite believe and had nonetheless watched happen too many times to doubt. His gaze slipped to her wrist, where faint bruising had bloomed under the gauze adhesive. He folded his arms, nowhere nearer, and yet as near as the room allowed. You called. I answered. I didn't call you, she said, because stubbornness was cheaper than terror. I called a friend with a bad joke. Then fate misdelivered, he said softly. It does that. The rain thickened outside, drumming a slow tempo on glass. Far below, if below existed in places like this. She heard the low murmur of an elevator coming and going, the way a building talks to itself in steel. Where are we? She asked. My place, he said. Top floors, warded. The glass is triple laminated and spelled besides. You're safe here. That's what kidnappers say. Kidnappers don't give you your phone back. She didn't look away from him. And what do kings give? Options, he said, and consequences that fit them. Their heartbeat that wasn't hers, pressed against hers in a quiet knock. Her throat went dry. You said I opened a... what? A bond? His posture didn't change, but the room recognized the shift in him. You did. With me? That's not possible. It is, he said. It shouldn't be this easy, but should and is. Rarely get drinks together. She pushed to her feet and discovered the floor was warm, like heat lived beneath it. The t-shirt slid over her knees. She wasn't dressed to argue with kings, but she was too angry to care. I don't know you. You don't have to, he said. The Bond knows me. She laughed brittle. That's the creepiest sentence anyone has ever said to me. It's the truest. Then break it, she said. Unknow me. Ronan's eyes cooled, a lake freezing from the middle out. That's not how it works. How does it work? She wanted something she could get her hands around, something with edges she could cut herself on, if she chose. A manageable pain. You were born with a coal in your bones, and so was I, he said. No apology in it, no heat either. The tone of a man who had decided long ago that denying the weather didn't keep it from raining. Most never trigger it. Most go their whole lives without dialing the number destiny hides in them, because fate is careful with explosives. But sometimes the world slips. A word lands just right, an hour opens like a throat. You press send. His gaze tipped to her mouth, then back to her eyes. It pressed back. She felt flushed and cold at once. And now what? I'm supposed to thank you? Follow you? Wear a crown and faint at parties? Gods no, he said, and the first genuine surprise colored his voice. If I wanted someone to faint prettily, I'd adopt a cat. It knocked the wind out of her. How absurdly human that was. Tucked between all the impossible, he watched her recover from a laugh she hadn't expected to trust. A soft chime sounded from somewhere near the door. He didn't turn his head, but his nostrils flared, tasting the air. The heartbeat next to hers shifted pace, and only then did she realize she had been measuring time by his pulse. Not her own. Breakfast, he said. And a guest I trust with knives. He went to the door. It opened before his hand touched it. A man stepped in, carrying a tray and an attitude that suggested he didn't have time for nonsense, but would make it if necessary. Older than Ronan by a decade, maybe two. Scar at his jaw, immaculate suit, eyes that did accounting for other people's souls and sent them invoices. Gray, Ronan said. This is Lila Cross. Gray inclined his head to her with exactly the right amount of respect to make a woman in a t-shirt feel dressed. Welcome. Is that what we call this? She asked. In this house, Gray said, setting down the tray. We call things what we mean them to be until they become it. He lifted a domed lid. Steam rose, spiced and clean. Eat before you fight. King's orders. Ronan shot him a look that said the word king didn't sound right from anyone but enemies. Gray ignored it with the finesse of a man who had been ignoring similar looks for years. Lila's stomach chose treason and growled audibly. She pretended it was the pipes. She took the bowl Gray offered, more because not taking it would have been a power move she couldn't sustain than because she had decided to accept anything. The first spoonful was a revelation. Ginger, broth, a ghost of lemon, a sturdiness built by bones, boiled down to their kindness. Explain the rogues, she said between careful sips. You said they were closing in like my joke worked. It did, Ronan said. He took nothing for himself. A bond opening throws a scent, a signal. Most can't read it. The ones who can are usually those I prefer not breathing anywhere near you. Why? Because I'm me, he said simply. If they can't reach me, they'll reach you to make me move. Why do they want you to move? Because when a king moves, cities shift. She hated how that sounded right. You said options, she said. What are mine? 3, Ronan said, and the number clicked in the air like a lock getting ready. 1, I erase you. New name, new life. South of here, where my reach doesn't paint a target on your back. It won't break the bond, but it will muffle it. You will always hear me in some small way. The way you hear rain that hasn't started yet. But you can choose to live with it. People do. Her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. Erase me? Legally, Gray said. No knives. 2. Ronan went on. You stay here until I can smother the noise your call made. Weeks. A moon, maybe. You learn why your body did this. You learn what it can do. If you decide you don't want the complication of my world, you leave with a protection that will get you to whatever life you want next. And 3? She asked, though part of her already knew. Part of her that had started counting with his heartbeat wanted him to say it anyway. You stay, he said. No dramatics. Not as a prisoner, not as an ornament. You stay as what you've already become. Mine by law, older than any council, and by choice if you decide to make one. We figure out what fate meant, and what we want, and where the seam is between the two. We will fight. You will win most of those fights. I will try not to like that as much as I probably will. It shouldn't have made her smile. It did. Gray adjusted his cuff. Option 4, he said delicately, is that you stab him and run, but we do not recommend it. He bleeds reluctantly, and you won't get far on those bare feet. Ronan's look said, do not encourage her. Gray's face remained apologetically administrative. Lila set the bowl down before her hands could expose how much they shook. You keep saying fate, she said, but it feels like you're leaving a lot unsaid. What else? Ronan glanced toward the windows, toward the rain that drew 1,000 vertical lines across the view. There is an old line in my family, he said at last. Men who wear the silver and keep cities from eating themselves. We were told our mates would be chosen in wild places, under bright moons. The stories never mentioned towers or phones. They never mentioned jokes. His mouth almost smiled. But the moon is nothing if not fond of editing. And your mate, she said carefully, the word strange and hot, is supposed to make you stronger. Or make me honest, he said. Both would be a miracle. And if I don't want to be written into your line, then you won't be, Ronan said, and for the first time, something raw slipped under his control. I won't chain you. I have worn chains with other names on them. I cut them off. I won't put any on you. The chime sounded again. Gray's gaze pricked toward the door. Ronan's head turned a fraction. A different energy came with the rain now, like static when intelligent, like tension grew teeth. Report, Ronan said, without looking like he was talking to anyone at all. A voice responded from nowhere and everywhere, flattened by speakers, woven into the room, feminine, dry, thrilled to be the smartest thing in a 10-mile radius. 2 signatures circling the building at street level. Fast. Sent profile says, feral. 1 at loading. 1 on the mezzanine. Cameras went fuzzy for 3 seconds on 42. I hate when they think they're clever. Nova. Gray murmured. Always the ray of sunshine. Lila stood, bowl forgotten. What does that mean? Ronan had already turned toward the hall. Every line in him rewritten by an order that came from deeper than orders. It means your call rang louder than I liked. Eat. Stay in this room. If the lights go, don't move until they come back. She hated how her body wanted to obey him. I'm not a child. No, he said, and the word was a caress and a command. Keep chatter minimal. She doesn't need the play-by-play. Buzzkill. The building purred, and the speakers sighed themselves quiet. The next minute splayed long and thin. Somewhere below, a door whooped open with the thick sound of air pressured into moving. Somewhere closer, something growled like an elevator clearing its throat, then stopped, then hummed again, once. The lights dimmed for a single breath and came back brighter, as if a hand had steadied the building's heart. Why are they feral? Lila asked, because silence was a mouth that wanted to swallow her. Gray moved 1 sliver of an inch, considering how much truth a woman in a borrowed t-shirt needed. Because some men choose hunger when they are offered rules. Because it is easier to break a city than build one. Because they smelled a crown. And me, she said. And you, he agreed, without spite. Kings and their mates, Ms. Cross, are lighthouses and lightning rods. They draw what's lost. And what hunts? A sound like a body hitting metal sent cold through her. Gray didn't twitch. Does this happen every time someone texts you? She asked. Only when it matters, he said. And nothing matters more than this. The door opened again without a sound. Ronan returned, as if he had stepped into another room and changed the paint color with his mind. A dark smear tracked across one knuckle. He wiped it with a wet cloth that smelled faintly of bleach and fur. His pulse was calm. Too calm. The way a lake tells you it's deep. Resolved, he said to Gray, and then, to the air, Nova! Boys are sleeping on 42. The building purred. I'll send flowers. Send the police a tip, Ronan said. Anonymous? Human jurisdiction. Gray's brows ticked up a hair. Magnanimous today. Efficient, Ronan said. His eyes came back to Lila, as if they hadn't wanted to leave. You okay? She hated the softness that wanted to answer too honestly. I will be, when I'm not the reason your hallways have teeth. You're not the reason, he said. You're the excuse. There's a difference. He crossed the room. Didn't touch her. Close enough to taste the air she threw off when she was afraid and angry and trying not to show either. The heartbeat braided to hers steadied. And only then did she realize he had slowed for her. Option 2, he said, picking up the thread they'd dropped only minutes and a small war ago. You stay. We teach. You learn how to shut doors you opened and how to open the ones you'll want later. What does that look like? She asked, because choosing something real required a real picture. Morning, he said. You run, with me or Gray, until you can outrun both of us. You learn to hear your own pulse and not panic when it changes. Midday, Nova teaches you the city, the cameras, the rules, the places where the grid looks like a god, and the places where it looks like a bruise. Afternoon, you sit with me and a few people I trust, and we teach you the old things, laws that never made it into books, because the people who lived them didn't own printing presses. Night, you sleep, or don't. I will not send anyone to guard your door unless you ask. You'll just stand in the dark by the window, like a storm on pause, she said, ticked and trembling, and too aware of how he'd been standing when she woke. His mouth softened. Sometimes, he said, as if confession were a thing you earned with honesty. And if I choose 3, she said, stepping into his space with a recklessness that was half bravery and half the kind of stupidity humans have always used to negotiate with gods. If I stay and make a choice, as you put it, what does that change? In here, he touched his own chest with 2 fingers. Everything. Out there. He nodded toward the rain. Only the parts that need it. She stared at him, trying to see the seam between the man who had wiped blood off his knuckles and the man who would give her 3 options and not make a 4th the hard way. You said you wore chains, she said, quiet. Whose? He exhaled, a thread of heat, a council that liked to confuse control with order, a mate who thought love was a leash, a city that decided its king didn't get to be a man. And now? I cut them, he said, and for an instant, the silver in his eyes burned like a coin in a forge. I won't wear them again. I won't put them on you. Silence, and all the thunder outside at rest. Okay, she said. Ronan went very still. Okay, what? Option 2, she said. I stay. I learn. For a moon, you said. Her mouth tried a shape it hadn't trusted for months. I give you 30 nights and the best of me in daylight. And after that, we talk about what choice 3 even means. Gray made a small sound that, helplessly, might have been approval. Ronan didn't move for a heartbeat, and then 2. When he did, it was only a fraction. The shift of a man adjusting to the sensation of relief when he had prepared for refusal. Deal, he said, and the word fit in his mouth like a promise, and a treaty, and an invitation not yet named. He held out his hand, not to grab, to sign. Lila looked at it, looked at him, put her palm in his. A current went through her. Not electricity. The older thing, electricity is a cheap imitation of. Not the bond's first slap of heat. This was steadier. The warm weight of something finding a place to live where it wouldn't leave bruises. Ground rule, she said, fingers still in his. No one decides for me, not your council, not your building, not your wolves, not you. Agreed, he said. Ground rule back. If teeth come for you, you call my name, even if I'm the last person you want to see. I don't know if you are, she said, and then wished she hadn't given him that much truth. He didn't weaponize it. We'll find out. Gray cleared his throat with the theatrical discretion of a man who has been married to other people's moments for decades. Your first lesson, he said, is that Nova hates to be ignored. The building's voice sighed exaggeratedly over the speakers. Finally. Hi, Lila. I'm the one who keeps this palace awake. Rule 1. Cameras are your friends. Rule 2. Stairs are faster than elevators when someone wants you dead. Rule 3. Never trust a door that wants you to use it. Lesson complete. Also, you have excellent bone structure. Lila snorted. Thank you. She likes you, Gray said. She insults those she worries she'll have to bury. Charmed, Lila said. Ronan released her hand, slowly. Training at 7, he said. Gray will bring something less kidnapped for you to wear. Sleep if you can. If you can't, there's a piano 2 rooms over. It's good for making the mind stop pacing. She hesitated. Ronan, he looked back. Again that soft click of attention that felt like heat turning toward her. Yes. You said I triggered this. That I sent a call. Heat crept into her face. If I hadn't, if I'd sent that joke to the right person, would we have met anyway? His answer came without pause, as if he had asked himself the same thing and decided on the same truth long ago. I would like to think so, he said, but I don't worship if. I worship what shows up, she nodded. He left. Gray followed, then paused in the doorway. For what it's worth, he said, I have watched the king deliver and receive nonsense from fate. You are the smartest nonsense it's sent him yet. When he'd gone, the room was hers again. The rain wrote its script on the glass. Lila lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling veined with gold. The heartbeat not hers, braided with hers, steady, unafraid, like a drum that had finally found the dance it was supposed to hold. She closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Something like peace did. Outside, the city shifted on its steel spine. Inside, the king's house kept watch, and somewhere under her skin, a bond she hadn't asked for and hadn't yet accepted, thrummed like a live wire, ready to light whatever she chose to build at .morning would bring running and rules and an introduction to a piano she didn't know how to play. Morning would bring a woman in the mirror who had decided to stop being a punchline in someone else's story. For now, in the storm's hush, she let herself imagine the text going through properly, the laugh from the friend she'd meant to tease, the quiet that would have followed. She let herself feel the ache of that ordinary life for the length of a breath. Then she exhaled, and with the exhale, made space for the extraordinary one that had knocked on her door instead. Morning arrived, disguised as fog. The city below was a grey sea, its towers like the ribs of some giant animal, half buried in the mist. From the balcony, Lila could see her reflection faintly mirrored in the glass. Barefoot, hair tangled, dressed in the training clothes Gray had left neatly. Folded at the edge of her bed, black leggings, loose tunic, a belt she didn't understand, but tied anyway. She wasn't ready for any of this, but readiness, she was learning, didn't matter to the kind of world she'd fallen into. The door opened behind her. She didn't need to look to know it was Ronan. His presence carried that strange static again, the sense that space made room for him as he entered. "You're awake," he said simply. She turned, lifting a brow. Was I supposed to oversleep on my first day of captivity? His mouth almost twitched into a smile. "Captivity implies you can't leave. I can't. You can," he said, moving closer. "You just wouldn't make it far before someone else found you. The difference matters. Comforting. It's the truth." He stopped a few feet away, arms crossed. "You ready?" "For what?" He gestured toward the door. Lesson 1. The training hall sat 2 floors below her suite, an expanse of dark wood, faintly scarred by claw marks. Long windows ran along one side, open to the city skyline. It was empty except for Gray, who stood by a rack of weapons, polishing a dagger that looked far too ceremonial to ever be practical. "Good morning," Gray said, eyes sharp but kind. "Don't worry, we start slow. You won't die unless you insist on learning fast." "Reassuring as always," Ronan muttered, striding past him. Gray inclined his head toward Lila. "He says that like he didn't almost die 3 times his first week." "I was testing the floor," Ronan said. "For what?" Lila asked. "Whether it was worth bleeding on." Gray chuckled. "And was it?" "Barely." Their banter was disarming, human almost. But when Ronan turned back to her, the warmth vanished. His gaze sharpened into something precise. "Show me your hands." She frowned but held them up. "Good," he said. "Now, make a fist." She did. "Tighter." She obeyed until her knuckles turned white. He stepped behind her, his voice low near her ear. "Not like that. You'll break your own fingers. Curl the thumb on the outside, not under. That's it." His hand brushed hers as he adjusted her grip, and the moment his skin met hers, that strange heat rushed back, like a live current humming under her pulse. Lila stiffened. "Does that happen every time you touch someone?" "No, so it's just me." He didn't answer. Gray cleared his throat deliberately. "Focus, both of you. There's a reason for this exercise that doesn't involve flustering each other." "Then tell me," Lila said, still not lowering her fists. Ronan stepped around to face her again. "Because you'll need your hands when instinct isn't enough. A wolf's strength doesn't only come from claws. Sometimes it comes from control. I'm not a wolf. Not yet," he said quietly. The words landed heavier than she expected. They trained until her arms shook. Gray corrected her stance with the patience of someone who had raised generals. Ronan, on the other hand, was relentless. When she hesitated, he pressed. When she faltered, he made her start again. At one point, she snapped, "You don't have to be a jerk to teach me." "Apparently I do," he replied evenly. "Pain teaches faster than kindness." "Then you must be a genius." She shot back. He smiled faintly. "You're learning." By the time they stopped, the fog had thinned. Sweat darkened her tunic. Her knuckles ached. But for the first time since the night of the text, her mind wasn't spinning. It was focused. Ronan handed her a towel. "You did well." "Define well." "You didn't run." She snorted. "You make a girl feel special." He turned, gaze tracing the skyline. "If I wanted to make you feel special, I'd tell you what I sensed last night." Her heartbeat stuttered. "What does that mean?" He faced her again. "When you slept, your bond pulsed, stronger than before. It responded to something. Maybe me, maybe the moon, maybe whatever's waking up inside you." Her throat went dry. "And you watched me sleep to figure that out." "I listened," he said. "There's a difference," Gray interjected before she could answer. "We'll continue tomorrow. For now, she needs food. And answers." Later, they sat in the glass-walled study on the highest floor. Rain had returned, soft and steady. The city lights blurred, like 1,000 tiny fires in the mist. Ronan leaned against the desk, arms folded. "You've seen enough to know this isn't normal. The bond between us. It shouldn't have triggered this easily. Unless Unless what? Unless you're not entirely human. Lila stared at him. Excuse me? You said your mother died when you were young. Her stomach twisted. How do you know that? I read your file, he said simply. Gray pulled records. The hospital never released a cause of death. Just a note. Blood anomaly. That doesn't mean anything. It might, he said softly. Because that same phrase shows up in my archives. The ones about the old bloodlines. Old bloodlines. The ones descended from the first wolves. Gray said quietly. Half-bloods, hybrids. Humans who carry dormant marks. Most never awaken. But if one of them does, Ronan met her gaze. They call it the lunar gene. It only activates when its bearer crosses paths with their fated mate. Lila's breath caught. You think that's what happened to me? I don't think, he said. I know. No, she whispered. That's impossible, is it? She pushed back from the table. I'm human. I have a job, rent, taxes, everything. I'm not. Her voice broke. Ronan took a slow step closer. Then explain why your pulse syncs with mine. Why you healed overnight from a glass wound that should have needed stitches. Why every rogue in this city smelled your presence the moment the bond opened. Stop, she said, voice trembling. Just stop. But he didn't. You can deny what you are, Lila. It won't change it. She shoved past him, storming toward the door. I don't need your destiny, or your rules, or your kingdom. I want my life back. You can't go back, he said quietly. That's not how the moon works. She spun around, tears burning her eyes. Then maybe I'll make my own rules. He didn't stop her as she left. The corridors were empty, lined with glass and silence. The elevator didn't respond when she pressed the button. Of course it didn't. She turned toward the stairwell, every step echoing, but halfway down, she felt it again, the pulse that wasn't hers, speeding up. Ronan, she called, heart hammering. What's happening? No answer. The air thickened. A sound echoed from below. A growl, low and wrong. Not human. Not even wolf. Something moved in the shadows below. A shape. A scent. Blood and smoke. Lila backed up the steps. No, no, no. Then she saw eyes, yellow and unblinking, rising from the dark. A rogue. It lunged. She screamed. The world tilted. Sound collapsing into chaos. A flash of silver split the dark. Ronan's blade catching the light as he appeared between them. Like lightning given form, the creature hit the wall, snarling. Its claws slashed, but he was faster. One twist, one movement, and the hall filled with silence again. He turned to her, chest rising and falling, eyes burning silver. You shouldn't have left the warded floor. I didn't know. He sheathed the blade. Now you do. Her voice shook. That thing, what was it? An old friend who didn't take rejection well, he said. They're getting bolder. She sank against the wall, shaking. You killed it. I protected what's mine. Her eyes met his. Stop saying that, he exhaled, the edge in him softening. Then tell me to stop. I am. No, he said quietly. You're trying to convince yourself you want to. The silence between them stretched. Thick, electric, terrifyingly alive. Lila swallowed. You said the bond was reacting to something. Maybe this is it. Maybe, he said. But I'd rather find out without you getting torn apart. He offered his hand. Come back upstairs. For a long moment she didn't move. Then, slowly, she took it. The warmth returned. Instant. Undeniable. As he led her back toward the light, she glanced at his profile and realized something that scared her even more than the rogues. It wasn't just the bond drawing her closer. It was him. The moon rose that night like an accusation, huge, golden, and watching. Lila sat by the window, knees pulled to her chest, watching the clouds drift across its face. Each time the light touched her skin, she felt something stir beneath it, like threads being tugged by invisible fingers. Her reflection in the glass looked pale, fevered, not entirely hers. Her pupils had started to shimmer faintly under the moonlight, just enough to make her flinch when she noticed. She hadn't seen Ronan since the stairwell. After he dragged the rogue's body away, he had vanished into the lower floors with Grey, leaving her in the silent, humming apartment guarded by Nova's sensors and invisible wards. It should have made her feel safe. It didn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the rogue's face, the hunger, the madness, and behind it, the flicker of something familiar. It knew her. Somehow it knew her. The intercom crackled. Nova's voice soft and sardonic. "Your pulse is too high, sweetheart. You're going to short out my sensors." "I'm fine," Lila muttered. "You're glowing." "I'm what?" "Look at your hands." She did, and gasped. The faint blue veins beneath her skin had begun to shimmer faintly, as though liquid light moved through them. It wasn't bright, just soft, ghost-like. "Nova," she whispered. "What's happening to me?" A pause. Then the AI said quietly, "He should have told you." "Who?" But the intercom went silent. The door opened a few minutes later. Ronan stepped in, coat still damp from rain, the faint scent of iron following him. His expression was unreadable, but there was tension in the set of his jaw, something he was trying, and failing, to keep buried. "You didn't answer when I called," he said. "Nova told me I'm glowing. That stopped him cold." "Show me." She held out her hand. The glow had grown faintly stronger, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. He approached slowly, eyes narrowing. "It's earlier than I thought." "What's earlier?" He looked up at the moon through the glass. "The awakening." Her chest tightened. "What does that mean?" He met her gaze. "It means your body is remembering what your blood forgot." She laughed once, dry and sharp. "You always talk like that when you don't want to tell me the truth." He hesitated, then exhaled. "Fine, you want the truth. You're not just bonded to me, Lila. You're linked to the old blood, a direct descendant of the first lunar line, the moon's chosen queens. They were born human, but carried the ability to bridge the world between wolves and men. Until they vanished." Her voice shook. "That's impossible. It's what you are." She shook her head. "No, my mother was, she worked in a library." "Your mother was hiding," Ronan said quietly. "I've seen this before. The blood skips generations, then wakes when the moon finds a reason. When a bond forms strong enough to call it back." She stared at him. "You mean you woke it?" "Yes." Her breath came faster. "So this is your fault." "Not fault," he said softly. "Fate." Her anger burned brighter. "You keep using that word like it excuses everything. Like I didn't lose my life overnight." He stepped closer, but she backed away. "Lila, no," she snapped. "You show up at my door, drag me into your world, kill monsters in my stairwell, and then tell me my blood isn't even human. Do you have any idea what that sounds like?" "Yes," he said quietly. "It sounds like the truth." The silence after that felt like broken glass. Lila turned away, pressing her palms to the window, breathing hard. The moonlight painted her reflection in gold. She watched it shimmer, and then watched it move. The glow beneath her skin rippled up her arms, spreading like wildfire. "Ronan," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's happening again." He was beside her in an instant. "Press it. Don't fight it." What's happening?" Her words cut off as pain exploded in her chest. She dropped to her knees, gasping. The light beneath her skin burned brighter, racing across her shoulders, her back, her neck. Ronan knelt beside her, his hand hovering just above her skin. "It's the mark," he said. "It's surfacing. Make it stop." "I can't. It's the moon claiming you." Her vision blurred. She saw flashes of white wolves running through forests made of silver trees. Heard whispers in a language she didn't understand. Her heartbeat roared in her ears, louder, deeper. until it wasn't one heartbeat anymore. It was two. When she looked up, her reflection wasn't human. Her eyes had gone entirely silver. Ronan's voice broke through the haze. Lila, listen to me. You're safe. She felt his hand on her shoulder. Warm. Grounding. The fire inside her slowed, turned softer. Her breathing steadied. The light began to fade. When she looked down again, her skin was normal. No glow, no fire, just sweat and shaking. What was that? She whispered. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his fingers careful. The first shift, not full, but close. I almost turned into, you didn't, he said gently. You stopped it. That's what makes you different. She swallowed hard. A different how? He looked at her, eyes unreadable. You're not meant to become a wolf. You're meant to command them. Her heart skipped. What? He stood pacing once. The lunar bloodline didn't transform. They ruled. Their power came from control. They could bend the bond between packs, between alphas, between worlds. So what? You think I'm supposed to lead your people? He turned back to her, the faintest flicker of something like fear crossing his face. I think you're supposed to replace me. The words hit her harder than the transformation. She stared. You're joking. I wish I were. Why me? Because the moon doesn't make mistakes, he said quietly. It just makes inconvenient choices. Hours later, Lila sat in the dark, wrapped in one of Ronan's coats, trying to make sense of the storm inside her. She could still feel it, the hum of power under her skin, restless and alive, like a pulse that didn't belong to her but refused to leave. She thought of her mother, of how she used to hum to the moonlight when Lila was little. Back then, she'd thought it was just a lullaby. Now she wondered if it had been something else. A call maybe, or a warning. The door opened softly. Ronan stood there, holding 2 mugs of tea. He placed one beside her without a word. I should have told you sooner, he said finally. You think. I didn't want to push you faster than you were ready. Guess the moon didn't care. He smiled faintly. She rarely does. Lila looked at him then. Not the king, not the alpha, but the man who looked more tired than dangerous in this light. You're afraid of me, she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Not of you, of what you could become. What if I don't want to become it? Then you'll have to fight fate harder than anyone ever has. Would you help me? He hesitated. Then softly. Even if it destroys me. Their eyes met, and the bond flared again. Soft this time, not painful. Warm. It felt like the world itself was holding its breath. And for the first time, Lila didn't pull away. Later that night, she woke to whispers. Not human voices. Something older. She rose quietly, following the sound to the balcony. The moonlight shimmered across the floor like water. Then she saw it, etched faintly on her forearm. The mark, a circular sigil, glowing silver beneath her skin. When she touched it, the whispers grew louder. Come find us. She looked out across the city, toward the dark forest beyond the skyline. And though she didn't understand why, she whispered back, I will, behind her. Ronan stirred in his sleep. The bond between them pulsed once, warning, knowing, and then fell silent. The mark on her arm glowed brighter. The moon had chosen. The city ends like a sentence cut short. Glass, steel and sodium lamps giving way to a lingering dark. Lila stands where the sidewalks give up, and the tree line begins, the wind lifting her hair, as if the night itself were riffling through pages, looking for her name. The whispers are stronger here, threaded through the hush of pine, the wet breath of the soil, the patience of things that grew without witnesses. Come find us. The mark on her forearm hums. Quiet, insistent. Silver threads under skin rise and settle, like a tide learning the shoreline of a new moon. You're not going alone. Ronan's voice arrives before his body does, but only just. One heartbeat, he's a cool absence at her back. The next, he's there. Coat open to the night, eyes reflective as creek water under stars. I didn't ask you to come, she says, because the part of her that survived by being stubborn still wants the last word. You didn't have to. The bond woke me. Something softer moves across his face. And Nova told me you were sneaking, which offends her architectural sensibilities. Are you going to stop me? No, he says. I'm going to keep you from being the most interesting corpse in my forest. She should argue. Instead, she nods, because the trees have started listening, and the night prefers honesty. They step beneath the canopy, city lights shearing away without protest. The temperature drops, not cruelly, just enough to make breath visible. The path, the one humans pretend is a hiking trail, narrows until even pretense gives out. Ferns press in, each frond a small green hand. Trunks rise like columns in an old cathedral. Lila's mark warms whenever she turns the right way, cools when she strays. The forest is a compass, if you have the blood to read it. How far? Ronan asks, voice low, respectful of the place. I don't know, she says, but it feels like not far and forever. Old places do that. They walk. Somewhere above, an owl considers them and finds them tolerable. Somewhere ahead, water speaks in a language every creature knows. The pronoun of rivers is we. Tell me the rest, Lila says. You started last night and stopped when the truth got teeth. What price did you pay the moon? Ronan's mouth tightens, then loosens, as if he's decided denial is more expensive than confession. The city was burning, he says. Not literally. People were turning feral after a council decree that broke packs and made boys kings before they grew their sense. They came for me because I was inconvenient. I went to the old stone and asked the moon for something I had no right to ask. The power to hold everything steady until I could rebuild it. What did she ask in return? My claim, he says, and for a moment his voice is not a king's. It is a man's. On any lunar who rose in my lifetime, the path stumbles under Lila's feet. So if I choose you, if I choose this, you will have chosen me against a vow I made to keep you free. A breath. I bargained that no chain, law, bond, grief, hunger would touch her without her consent. The moon agreed, and now here you are. How noble, she says. And it sounds like accusation because tonight all softness is edged. A man who can't claim doesn't have to risk being refused. His laugh is a quiet wince. I've been refused in 100 languages, Lila. I still wanted to be the one who opened the door and not the one who locked it. They come to a break in the trees. The ground drops to a bowl where the sky has pooled. An old quarry, the wilderness has stolen back. In the hollow, a pond gleams black, edged with reeds. But it is not the water that makes Lila stop. It is the ring of standing stones circling the shore. 12 of them, each carved with a spiral that repeats until the eye forgets how to leave it. Her mark flares. Moon's teeth, Ronan whispers. A lunar grove. She moves down the slope as if the ground were instructing her. The stones don't lean in. They simply are. Implacable, bored of men, fond of weather. Wind combs the reeds. The whispers that brought her here hush, as if they too wanted to see what she will do without prompting. How many know this place? She asks. No one living, Ronan says. Until now, she steps between two stones. The air changes temperature by a breath, like stepping into shade. The water takes her reflection and refuses to give it back. She kneels, fingers hovering over the surface. Careful, Ronan says. He doesn't touch her, but the word almost does. Careful of what? She asks. Promises, he says. They like to hide in water. Lila touches the pond. Silver swarms across the surface, a map drawing itself. Not lines, threads. Shimmering, knotting, undoing. Wolves running along them like beads. Women standing at crossroads. Palms up, eyes bright, each thread wears a name in a language Lila tastes, rather than reads. She feels her mother in one, her grandmother in another, feels something with her mother's voice, humming under her bones. A lullaby with claws. The water shows her a city with no glass, only stone and fur and firelight. Shows her a woman standing barefoot on a stone, like the ones that ring this pool. A woman whose mark glows bright as morning, and whose eyes look like Lila's, when she forgets to pretend at being small. When the city learns to devour, the Luna returns with a hunger older than its teeth. The voice is not a voice. It is the scratch of gulls on a winter pier, the slump of first snow on firs, the click of a wolf's nails on rock. It fills the hollow without sound. Lila's spine goes cold. What do you want from me? Choose the shape of mercy. That's not an answer. It's the only one that lasts. The surface calms. Shadow reclaims silver. Ronan is very still, like a man waiting to see if an earthquake is finished. What did it say? That I have to choose, she says. Mercy, but with shape. That's the trick, he says. A dark smile without joy. Shape mercy wrong, and it looks like permission. Before she can answer, the night changes its mind. It begins as a vibration through the stones, a small impatient child of an earthquake. The reeds shiver without wind. Then the smell comes, copper and rot and road tar. The scent of a pack that ate the wrong law and liked the taste. Lila rises, Ronan already turning. The half second, the difference between prey and legend. Shadows spill down the bowl, not wolves. Too lean, too wrong. But things that once were, and decided man's rules were optional. Feral. At least 6, maybe more. Eyes like old coins. Teeth that want to be history. The leader's muzzle is scar-scored. The scar is familiar. The stairwell, Lila says. He should be dead. Apparently he took my don't come back as a riddle. Ronan says, and his cane is a sword between one heartbeat and the next. The blade cutting mist into obedience. The leader laughs the way metal laughs when it breaks. Thorne, he says, voice oily with someone else's bravado. King of empty crowns, the moon's pet. His gaze slides to Lila and sticks. The scarred lips peel, and the Luna who texts her destiny like a drunk at midnight. Rage needles her. You read my messages. Everyone reads everything, he says. That's the era you chose. He tips his head, mock courtly. Come along, little queen. The boys you're meant to break are bored waiting. Ronan moves. The first feral doesn't die. He stops existing. The way a candle stops being a candle after a match forgets its manners. Another lunges. Ronan turns, and the blade bites a breath above Lila's shoulder, rounding her without touching her. A perfect orbit that says, I know where you are, even when you don't. You can't take all of them, she says. I can take enough, he says, and then the world is teeth. Lila's training wants to panic, and then remembers morning. She drops her center of gravity. She moves when the thing with eyes like beer bottle glass commits to a path. She steps aside and gives it what Gray called the generous absence. It stumbles and she brings her elbow down hard, the way Ronan taught her, and Bone gives up a job it was enjoying. The leader does not attack. He watches. His eyes are wrong in a way Lila doesn't have a word for. Not just feral, borrowed. Who's speaking with your mouth? She says, breath rough. Something else smiles through his teeth. You'll find out when you come to the party. Ronan takes another down, but the bowl keeps leaking wolves. Lila counts 7 and then stops, because numbers turn to knives if you hold them wrong. She feels for the mark on her arm, like a hand reaches for a light switch in a dark room it has learned by heart. The first time it shocked her. The second it overwhelmed her. Now, she breathes in through her nose, out through her mouth. Her palm opens. Stop, she says. The word is not a word. It is a shape. She puts it on the air. The younger ferals freeze, as if strings pulled tight from sky to spine. The older ones tremble, as if a hand has touched their heads gently and made them remember they were born. Ronan's blade halts a hair from a throat. His eyes flick to her, quick, astonished, then disciplined again. The leader snarls. It breaks the hold like a man breaks a glass on a bar he isn't paying for. Clever, he says. Do it again. She does not. This is not a trick. It is a tax on a body that has not learned how to grow more of what it spends. The others shiver free one by one, the way frost leaves a window reluctantly. Ronan closes the space to the leader. Steel and breath and the kind of grace that is just expensive practice. They trade violence. The leader laughs again. Ask him, Luna, he says, sliding away, quick as regret. Ask your king what he promised when the last Luna died. Ask him whose grave he built in a house that still wears her scent. The hit lands where he meant it to. Not on Ronan. On Lila. Ronan stumbles, because for the first time tonight, something real has cut him. Her. The split second is enough. The leader's claws score Ronan's ribs. Blood goes dark on dark. The sound Ronan makes is small and furious. Lila moves without thinking. Mercy chooses a shape. She steps between them, palms up. Down, she says. Not to Ronan, not to the thing wearing another thing's mouth, but to the night itself. Every wolf in the bowl falls to their knees. The leader fights it like a drunk, fights a closing time he doesn't believe in. His joints creak with effort. His grin holds. Yes, he says, breath ragged. That's the thing. That's the crown. He spits blood, and something that is not blood. I'll take it off you myself, one day. When he isn't looking, he jerks his chin. The ferals break like a net that has been cut. They run the slope in a tumble of speed and cowardice. Two don't rise. Ronan doesn't watch them go. He watches the leader until the trees take him, and then studies the trees as if they have made a personal mistake. Silence returns to the bowl. It isn't peace. It's an armistice with nice manners. Lila turns to Ronan. The slice along his ribs is clean, shallow, mean. She reaches. He catches her wrist, not to stop her, but to hold himself steady on something that is not pain. Later, he says, voice low, "We're not done here." "We are," she says. "They're gone." "Not them," he says. "You and the stones." She looks back at the ring. The spirals seem brighter. The pond is black again and patient. What did he mean? She asks. About the grave. About a promise. Ronan's jaw ticks. He looks like a man choosing between two truths he dislikes equally. Now or never. He picks now. I told you the council tried to break me. He draws a breath in that scrapes him on the way down. Before they did, I loved. Not the girl you make poems about. The woman you build laws with. She was not a Luna by blood, but she might as well have been. She held me clean. When the city started to eat itself, they took her. They sent a message. Kneel, save her. I didn't. I wouldn't. I went to the stone and asked the moon for a power big enough to drown kings. The moon asked me if I would pay for it with the thing I loved most. I said yes. I thought she meant my life. He looks at Lila then. Not king, not wolf, not even man. Only a grief that chose to grow muscle instead of rotting in place. They brought me Evelyn's body, he says. The moon gave me a city that obeyed and took the only voice that could talk me out of what I became. The pond does not move. The stones do not weep. They have heard this kind of story and learned not to drown in it. Lila swallows. The anger at being chosen. The resentment at being rewritten. It all makes a small embarrassed sound and sits down. There are losses that teach even fury to whisper, "I'm sorry," she says, "because it is not enough and the only thing that is." "Don't be," he says. And for once, it is not a reflexive cruelty. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't mine either. It was a world that praises sacrifice because it's cheaper than changing. She wants to touch him and does not. Not yet. The mark on her forearm warms. A child raising its hand. She lowers hers. What now? She asks. Now, he says, turning back to the stones. You ask the grove what it wants to do with a Luna who can pull wolves to their knees and won't let anyone, including me, decide what that means. Lila steps into the circle again. The pond remains blank. She kneels. The words that come to her are not hers. They grew here, and she borrows them. I am Lila Cross. I am the wrong message delivered to the right name. I am the girl who made a joke, and a kingdom answered. I don't want a throne. I want a city that doesn't need one. She looks up at the stones, their patience, their appraisal. If mercy must have shape, show me how to build it so it holds. The water shivers, silver rises, but not as a map this time, as a mirror. Lila sees herself, and something that is not herself, standing behind her, tall, barefoot, hair braided with wolf fur and metal. Eyes like mercy after it has learned to fight, speak, and be obeyed, or learn to listen and be followed. The choice lands in her chest. She understands suddenly what the first Lunas knew. You can command 1,000 bodies with a word and still lose the one thing you needed because you did not ask what it wanted. Or you can listen until your ears ache and then say a single sentence that moves a valley. She rises. I choose listening, she says, and I will speak only when it saves a throat from opening for a blade. The pond settles. The mark on her forearm cools to a calm, steady warmth. Somewhere far off, a fox decides not to cross a road and lives because of it. The night loosens its jaw. Ronan's shoulder has bled through shirt and coat. Lila steps to him now and does not ask permission because fixing a body is not a chain. She presses her palm to his ribs. Heat moves out of her and into him, not burning, stitching. He bites back a sound. Breath shakes once in his chest. Better, she asks. Better, he says, and the word contains more than pain. They climb out of the bowl together, the trees parting with a creak, the way old friends do when someone comes home late. At the ridge, city light returns, hesitant at first, then exuberant. Nova's voice floats into the dark like a helpful ghost. Did we like our field trip? She asks. Because I counted 12 breaches, 3 deleted, 2 diverted, and 1 very expensive drone, I will be filing under acceptable loss. Also, I hate the woods. They make my cameras itch. We're coming in, Ronan says. Grey on standby. Blood not mine. Copy, Nova purrs. And Lila, yes. Good choice, she says, and cuts the channel. Embarrassed by her own sincerity, they walk until the sidewalk admits them. Streetlights blink like they've been caught napping. A bus huffs its way past, angry at the hour. Lila looks at the city and sees not towers, but throats. Mercy will need many shapes. At the building's glass doors, she stops. Ronan does too, because he has learned the choreography of a woman thinking. He'll come again, she says. The scarred one, or whoever rents his mouth, he will, Ronan says. And he'll bring an invitation. To what? A masquerade, Ronan says. Where the masks are laws, and the dance floor is a court, and the prize is your city. Then we'll go, Lila says. We? His eyebrow tilts. You paid your price to keep me free, she says. I will pay mine to keep you alive. Something eases under his ribs. That is not muscle. He nods once. Then he says, the thing that has been pacing in him since the quarry. You were magnificent, she laughs, tired and startled. I was terrified. That's usually the doorway, he says. Magnificence rarely knocks. They ride the elevator up. In the mirrored walls, Lila sees a woman who left her apartment days ago and came back different. Eyes brighter, mouth set, spine remembering its right to straighten. Ronan's reflection stands beside her. like a knight that has learned how to be shelter. At her floor, he turns to go. She catches his sleeve. The touch is a question. Stay, she says. Not demand. Invitation. If the knight has more teeth, it always does, he says. And for the first time since a council stole a future from him, he crosses a threshold because someone asked. The city sleeps badly, as cities do. Below, somewhere, a scarred man washes blood out of his fur and laughs with a mouth that isn't his. Above, the moon turns her face a fraction, and an old grove feels seen. On the table by Lila's bed, her phone lights up with a message that appears and deletes itself too quickly for any camera to catch. Full moon, masks, midnight, bring your king. Lila reads the absence it leaves and smiles without. Humor, Chapter 6. She whispers to the dark, to the grove she carries under her skin, to the man who pretends to sleep in a chair he will never truly rest in. Let them knock, and as if obeying an author she doesn't know, somewhere deep in the building, 3 sharp raps sound against a door that has not been used in years. The bond surges once, eager and unafraid. The hunt is over. The reckoning begins. The invitation arrived the same way the first message had. Out of nowhere, impossibly certain of its audience. Full moon, masks, midnight, bring your king. Lila read it aloud, voice flat to hide the shiver it put through her. Ronan only said, "Of course," like the line of prophecy he'd been waiting for. The mansion on the hill hadn't existed yesterday. At least, that was how it felt. Tonight, though, it burned with lantern light. Gold flicker behind black glass. Carriages that weren't carriages, arriving without a sound. The whole building breathed the kind of glamour that came from power. Old enough to have outlived guilt. Lila stood with Ronan on the gravel path. The scent of night jasmine thick in the air. She wore black silk that moved like smoke and a half mask of silver feathers. The mark beneath her skin shimmered faintly with every heartbeat. As if aware of the moon overhead, Ronan, beside her, looked carved from shadow and regret. His mask was bone white and simple. No pretense, only warning. "This is where they'll come?" she asked. He nodded. "The council. The old ones who hide behind human banks and border treaties now. They've been waiting for the Luna to walk into their circle again. And we're just walking in." His mouth curved. Nothing scares tyrants more than someone who doesn't knock. Inside, the air was honey thick and heavy with perfume and politics. Everywhere she looked, masks, wolves, stags, serpents, owls, men and women in suits and gowns, laughing too softly, moving like predators with choreography. Music coiled through the hall, strings tuned to heartbreak. Lila felt eyes turn toward her, the way the sea turns toward a storm. The mark on her arm pulsed in recognition and warning. "They can feel you," Ronan murmured. "They've been waiting for the pulse of a Luna for 2 centuries. I can feel them too," she whispered back. "It's like standing inside a heartbeat that isn't mine." "Hold the rhythm," he said. "Don't let it own you." At the center of the ballroom, a dais waited. On it stood a woman in crimson, mask carved into the shape of a hawk's face. Her voice slid through the noise like a knife through silk. "Welcome, King Thorne," she said. "And his guest." Lila met her gaze. "Lila Cross," she said steady. "Not guest, not prisoner." The hawk smiled beneath her mask. "Ah, the moon's mistake." Ronan's shoulders stiffened, but Lila touched his arm before he could answer. "If I'm a mistake," she said, "then you're the echo trying to convince itself it's a voice." A ripple went through the room, half shock, half admiration. The hawk laughed softly. "So it speaks. Tell me, child, did he tell you what he traded for his throne?" "I already know," Lila said. "Then you know why we invited you." Lila's pulse quickened. "To threaten me. To crown you," said another voice. low, amused, coming from the shadows behind the dais. The scarred rogue stepped forward, dressed in black formal wear like an unfunny joke. The gash across his face had healed into something deliberate, almost ornamental. "You again," Ronan said. "Always me," the rogue said. "Because you never kill the part of yourself that kneels." Lila saw it then. The shimmer around him, the same silver-black aura that had haunted her dreams since the grove. The one that wasn't his. "You're possessed," she said quietly. The rogue grinned. "Borrowed. The old blood needs a mouth, and yours was busy." The air shifted. The masked guests began to move, slowly encircling them. Ronan's sword appeared, gleaming like moonlight frozen into steel. Lila stepped forward. "No," she said. "No blades. Not this time." The mark on her skin burned white. The chandeliers flickered. The walls trembled. Every mask turned toward her, heads bowing without will. Even the scarred man froze, mid-breath, eyes wild with the knowledge that his body no longer belonged to him. Lila's voice filled the hall, quiet, inexorable. "You've all forgotten why you were made," she said. "The moon didn't give you claws to build thrones. She gave you claws to protect the world from itself," the hawk woman hissed, struggling against invisible weight. "You speak rebellion." "No," Lila said. "I speak remembrance." She lifted her hand. Light poured from the mark like water, washing across the hall. The glamour peeled back, revealing not monsters, but people. Tired, afraid, ancient souls still playing at power because they feared what silence might make them hear. The rogue screamed. The borrowed voice within him spat through his teeth. "You can't unmake what's already begun." "Watch me," Lila said. She pressed her palm to his chest. Silver light bloomed. The possession burned away like smoke in wind. He fell, unconscious, human again. Ronan reached her side, voice hoarse. "You ended it." She looked around the room, at the council, on their knees, masks scattered like fallen moons. "No," she said. "I began it." They walked out together as dawn bled into the horizon, the air raw with newness. Behind them, the mansion dissolved into mist, its glamour undone, its shadows unanchored. "What happens now?" she asked. Ronan glanced toward the rising sun. "Now the city learns there's a Luna who listens before she commands." "And you?" "I follow until I'm not needed," he said. She smiled faintly. "I think you'll be needed for a while." He didn't argue. Above them, the moon hung pale and full, fading into daylight, but not gone. And beneath that light, the mark on Lila's arm pulsed once. Gentle, certain. The world had found its Luna, and she was done running.